I've talked about my love of baseball history and how it can be romantic, and how can anyone not just fall in love with a game when you learn about stories like this. And so here we go with this one.
Okay.
It starts off with one of everyone's favorite players in cinema and music history, the great Bing Crosby. So about 15 years ago, somebody in the Bing Crosby estate was going through some of his old film footage to put together a Christmas special. And of course, in Bing Crosby's basement, somewhere, he probably had a treasure trove of old films.
Yeah. Old prints of Road to Rio and the Bells of St. Mary.
Right, so this estate manager comes across what turns out to be an incredibly rare film reel of Game 7 of the 1960 World Series. So he calls up Bob Costas, and he wants him to come out and take a look at it.
Yeah, and so, as Bob Costas is with this archivist, he sees this film of the 1960 World Series, and Costas immediately knows, what? This is absolute gold.
Dude, absolute gold. Now listen, in those times, the games were played on live television and pretty much never seen again after that. There were no VCRs where you could tape the game. There was no ESPN to roll out the instant classics. Once the game was over, it was pretty much gone.
Yeah, these players had never seen themselves play on Sports Center, and nobody got the instant replay. You either saw it live in person or you might have seen it on TV, and then it kind of disappeared off into the ether.
Right, exactly. But lo and behold, 50 years after this World Series, somebody stumbles across this gem.
And the fun thing about the story, too, is why there was even a kinescopic copy of the kinescope is basically the only way they did anything like that those days is they just they took a picture of the television screen.
Yes. So, of course, Bing being in the film industry, he would have access to this type of equipment. But he's over in Europe at the time of the 1960 World Series, and he's unable to catch the game. By the way, he's a part owner of the Pirates, and he's kind of nervous about the World Series, and he doesn't want to watch it. So he has someone back home film the game, and they do just what you said, which is to make a kinescope by using a movie camera and record a live broadcast by filming your TV. So they filmed Game 7, and it turns out that Game 7 has an epic finish, one of the greatest finales to a World Series ever.
Which, if you've ever seen this home run, have we even mentioned who we're talking about yet?
I don't think we have, no.
We're talking about, listen, when I was a kid, every time I went in the spring to the grocery store, there was always a magazine that was Bill Mazeroski's baseball preview. And I didn't know who the hell Bill Mazeroski was. I mean, I'm a kid from the 80s. It wasn't until years after that I knew that, he hit an important home run someday long ago that was impactful.
Right, and this is kind of like what I was saying earlier, with the Willie Mays catch, that unless you're up in age and got to see this game on TV when it happened, I mean, it's been 65 years since that Mazeroski home run. So these types of moments, before the age of weekly baseball programs, these types of moments can easily get lost in the passing of time.
Yeah, because we grew up in the age of this day in baseball of color highlights and things. I mean, relatively speaking to the 60s, when we were watching baseball highlights in the 80s, they were pretty good quality compared to this. So anytime I had seen the Bill Mazeroski Game 7 1960 World Series home run, the quality was so crummy and it had no context to me. So it was like, oh, hey, big baseball moment that I'm not really connected to and I don't really care about. But when you kind of absorb what this meant in context in the time, not only to the Pirates franchise itself, but to all these old fogies who played in the 1960 World Series, and they gathered together, organized by Bob Costas, because he's got this piece of kinescopic gold to show these old men who have never seen themselves play before. They've never seen a replay of themselves.
Yeah, so let's go over that whole thing because, we set this up, but here's where the story is going. So Bob Costas and that Bing Crosby estate manager were able to put together a showing at some theater in Pittsburgh, and they invited all the 1960 Pirates players to watch that game.
Yeah, to sit down in this theater in Pittsburgh in this private invite and watch the 1960 Game 7 World Series, he said it was almost like people watching the game live. They were so captivated by it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, these guys played in the World Series. They won the World Series. They celebrated their championship. But then right after that, they kind of went on their way, and that World Series was never seen by those players. All they have left are a few shreds of memories that they still hold on to from 50 years earlier. Then all of a sudden, Bob Costas is putting together a 50th anniversary special for these guys with a film from Game 7.
And you had no idea it existed. Like, it's not something they've been playing on the air for the last four. Like, out of nowhere, one of the greatest moments of your life is being played before your eyes as an old man.
Right. And they get to relive that moment for the first time. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to see these guys in that moment. It had to have been an unbelievably special experience for that.
Right. The thing to keep in perspective here, too, and I don't want to kick you in the gut being a Yankees fan, John, but the Yankees outscored the Pirates 46-17 in that series.
Yeah, the Yankees were steamrolling the Pirates. In the games that they won big. And in the games that they lost, they were all very close. So the Yankees really were the favorites in that series.
Oh, yeah. Every time the Yankees won, it was like 12-0 or 17-3. I mean, it was just brutal. And the Yankees were the big cheese. They had Mantle. I mean, they had all the Yankee greats on that team, and the Pirates were the Arizona Diamondbacks of the day.
Yeah, I think they surprised everyone by winning the National League. They had been bad for so long.
Yeah, and so talk about underdogs. And even in the series themselves, they were getting cranked over, but they kept eking out these little wins. But I think the thing about Bill Mazeroski, too, is that being a mediocre second baseman with mediocre stats, like, he's not a Mickey Mantle. Like, it could have been any one of these small potatoes for the Pittsburgh Pirates team, and it was almost Hal, right? Because he hits the game-winning home run, almost the same exact home run to the same area of the field in the 8th, and the Yankees hit a home run and tie it up.
Yeah, you're talking about Hal Smith, and part of this story in the Poznansky book is about Hal Smith, the very much unknown Hal Smith, who hits the go-ahead homer in the 8th, like you said, and everyone is celebrating like they had just won the World Series. I mean, you have 3 outs left and it's over, right? But the Yankees come back in the top of the 9th to tie it. And so what would have made Hal Smith the hero ends up becoming a footnote because the Yankees tie it up and now more heroics are required, which is where Mazeroski comes in. But it's Hal Smith that really gets this thing started by putting the Pirates ahead in the 8th inning in the first place.
And it's funny, too, is that they say when they showed it in the theater for the 50th anniversary, everybody exploded with the same enthusiasm as they did back in the 8th in 1960 because they thought that had won the game.
That's wild. So we have 2 clips of that game. We have the Hal Smith home run in the bottom of the 8th, and we have the Bill Mazeroski home run, which was the World Series clincher in the bottom of the 9th. So let's play those 2 clips.
7-6 New York. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And Hal Smith hits a drive to deep left field. The ball is way back out there, going. And pandemonium breaks loose at Forbes Field.
That's amazing. Okay, so that was the Hal Smith home run, which, as you heard the announcer, the Pirates were trailing 7-6. So that home run gives them the lead. That was the bottom of the 8th. And so with the lead, they were only 3 outs, 3 defensive outs away from winning the World Series. But of course, the Yankees tie it up in the top of the 9th, which sets up the Bill Mazeroski homer. How can you not love this game? Couple of really great clips right there from the 1960 World Series. And for those Pirate players that were able to see this 50 years later, it just must have been such a special thing to be a part of.
Yep. Well, and there was another sentimental moment of the whole thing, too. Of course, this is, being viewed after the passing of Roberto Clemente. And Roberto Clemente, didn't contribute much to the series. And, he hadn't really come into his own completely as a player yet. But as sentimentally, like every time Clemente came up to the plate, there was just a ruckus of applause. I mean, so knowing the backstory upon what this meant to the Pirates and
Well, Bob Costas said it was one of the greatest things that he'd ever been a part of. So it had to have meant so much more to the players who were given the chance to relive that moment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Great story.
And really, it brings that World Series to life for guys like us who weren't there to see it.
Yeah. Now I have a whole new appreciation for it.
For more segments like this, check out our full episodes on any podcast platform. We are the Baseball Book Club. Thanks for listening.